What is going on, everyone? Jason, the train freak, or also known as Colonel Cottonbelt, is here. Welcome to the town of Weiner, Arkansas, where you can go bowling at Blue Ball Lanes if you wanted to. Or you could go get you a donut at Homer's Donuts. Today we are going to look at installing some signals for the double crossover here at Weiner. So I've got some things to explain. And I apologize on the front end if you're hearing a lot of peeping noises in the background. I've got 5 hens, I think they're hens, 5 chickens in the brooder. They're like 2 weeks old, almost 3 weeks old. And it'll be another couple of weeks before they go out to the coop with the rest of the chickens until they're old enough. So I apologize on the front end if they're causing a lot of racket. But anyways, let's talk about this double crossover. So this is, like I said, the town of Weiner. So you have blocks here. So I need to explain all of this before we get into the signals that were provided by my buddy Richard over at Custom Signal Systems. So each track is going to be a block. So this is going to be Weiner Main 1, Weiner Main 2. Over here, this is going to be Waldenburg Main 1, Waldenburg Main 2. Now, for those who follow the channel, know that I'm not going to have a city over here called Waldenburg, but these are what the 2 curves are going to be called, because that is a town between Weiner and Hickory Ridge, which is the next town. So this will be Waldenburg, alright? Selective compression, gotta love it. Alright, on a double crossover, a single crossover or a pair of single crossovers, you have to isolate the 2 main lines as 2 separate blocks. So this is going to be T, I believe it's 209 and 210. I'm sorry, not T, it's X. X209 and 210 main 1, X209 and 210 main 2. So, and that's because these crossovers do function as pairs. I do not have them set up to where when you press one button, all 4 of them throw, and that's because the real railroads do not do that. So you can see that I have 2 individual buttons that control the pairs individually. Alright, so let's talk about signals, the types that I'm using, why I'm using them, and then we will get to the install. Alright, so this is my buddy Richard from Custom Signaling Systems. If you use Train Freak Hobbies, I can get you these at a discounted rate. So I am a distributor with Custom Signaling Systems. But this is a search head style. This in this bag, there's 2 of them that are going to be left set. I can get them left, I can get them right, which is in the other bag, or I can get them center set, depending on what you want. I'm using left set here, and I'm also using right set there. You'll rarely ever see me use center set, alright? And that's because I want the signal between the mast and the track. So we'll have one here. I've already drilled some holes. The drill bit I used was a 7/64 bit. That's just a 64th under a 1/8. And I put some holes here. I have a little piece of masonite here. This is only 1 inch wide. And what I'll do is I will put it right up against the ties, and then I just drill my hole. Like so. Kind of dark, but you can see the hole. And I'll do the same thing on both sides. And that way I have a good distance between the mast, the heads, and the trains. So that way there is no damage. Okay? Let's talk about the equipment underneath the layout. So give me a second and I'll get set up for that. Okay, so this is kind of a hard area to see, but you can see I have 2 nodes here, and I'm not using any I/O cards piggybacked off of this. But these are Signal LCCs. I can add either like an SMD8, or I can add, you know, like a block occupancy detector 8 or a BOD 8. on these, but in this situation I really don't need them. But each of these nodes will do 4 signal heads, and they can do 4 colors each. So you can do a total of 16 lamps. Technically you could do a 5th head. Just make sure you do some really good documentation. Otherwise you can get yourself easily confused of what's what. In the future I will probably use the 4th LED maybe for an individual head that I might have maybe a restricting, which might be just a flashing red. So that's the cool thing about Richard, you can get any type of light configuration you want. Or I might use a lunar white instead of a flashing red. So different possibilities. Alright, so yes, I'm going to use all 4 signals. Each one's going to take 2 positions on here. So those are Signal LCCs by RR Cirkits. I am also a distributor with RR Cirkits as well. So Train Freak Hobbies, I do track planning, but I will also help you do prototypical signaling and provide you the equipment you need for prototypical signaling as well. Alright, let's go ahead and go back above to the top part of the layout. Alright, so now that I got the camera on the tripod, we can closely look and determine which signal we need for each. So as you can see, I got a quantity of 2 in this bag, and Richard is so good about labeling everything for you so you can see the difference between the left and the rights. We're going to need 1 for each. So like I said, the mast goes in between, or the signal head, sorry, the signal head goes in between the mast and the track. So if we were facing the track head on, we would actually want it to look like this. So I'm going to start with the left head first, and he puts them in individual bags if you get multiple quantities. So like I said, everything is labeled, and what I really like is he even puts the wires in little bitty baggies as well, so that way you can easily differentiate, you know, if you get something with multiple heads or which head is which. Alright, so I'm just going to open this up. We're going to take it out, take a look at the signal head a little closer. So as far as the signals go, like I said, you can get them left, right, like the ones we'll see in a minute, or I can get them center set. I can have them up close like that, or have them stick out. Ladder options, I can put relay. I have relay boxes. I can't put them, but Richard can. But I can order them for you however you want them. Relay boxes on the bottom, more of a prototypical ladder with platforms behind the signal head. The finials, he offers 3 different types. And then as far as a paint, you can get shiny silver, dull weathered silver, which you see here, or even black. Heads, you can get searchlight, like what I have here, G style. That is a circular head with 3 lights in a triangle position. Or the D style, which is more modern, and that would be like, you know, 3 lights straight up and down. So, alright, let's go ahead and install. So the way I like to do this is I will kind of do a test fit to see if I can barely get it to go in. And I know if I can, then I know I'm going to be good on that, because he's got some tubing here on the bottom that's a little thinner than the mast, or the pipe brass tubing that he uses. So instead of opening both bags, I'm just going to open the one. Alright. And what I like to do is I like to take my 3 wires, and he's already got them stripped. And I'm going to fold these over and just kind of twist them and bend it so that way I can easily push it down. And I'm going to push the resistor down first. Alright. Followed with the other wires, if I can get them to go down in the hole. And then I will reach under the layout and pull it through like so. Now what you're not going to see on camera is I'm going to take this bag and I'm going to put them on those wires. So that way I know which one's my top wires and which one are my bottoms. Okay, now that I've got the bag on the top ones, now I'm gonna do the bottoms. Just gonna take it off, we're gonna pull those out. And it's kind of hard to see in the camera, but he even has these wires color coded. There's a green, an orange, and a red wire. So it's really hard to tell, but he pretty much takes all that guessing work out for you, so that way you don't have to deal with that. All right, like I said, I'm gonna take the resistor, shove it down first, and then I'm going to take the wire and try to shut, well, in this case I'm probably going to have to put the wire down first, then the resistor, because it's already kind of tight. So let me shove the wire down first, then we'll use the resistor to pull it down. I'm going to reach under, try to pull that resistor through. It's kind of tight, and there you go. And then we'll just take the signal and we'll set it in place. Now right now I'm not going to glue this in because I'm going to have to do some painting here, so I'm going to make sure I leave enough slack that I can take my signal and just kind of lay it down or hold it as I'm painting. But for the time being, we could go ahead and get a signal in play. But yes, I will glue it down, and there is a platform there as well from Richard. So there you go. Alright, that's how easy it is to install physically the signals. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other three, and then we'll be right back. Alright, looks like there's only one signal there, but if I move the camera, that's how good of a straight line I got. Make it look like there's only one. Okay, so I do have the signals here, so you can see we got a good spacing on it. And I put my building back in because I told you this is where the other one's going to be at. But you can see it's kind of centered. Well, it's a little closer to the building than it is the track, but that's okay. But yeah. So all four signals are mounted, but you can see they're not currently working, and that's fine, because that's going to be the next thing we work on. So I went ahead, I've got all the bags hanging, so you got a set of bags here, set of bags there, and a couple more sets of bags there as well. So I typically do not like to wire these straight into the node, or the nodes, which are right here. So we're the nodes are kind of centered, so that's going to make things a little easier, but I do not like wiring my signal straight to it. And I do this for troubleshooting purposes. So I will take some network cable, but I like to use these Just Plug Spicer plugs. I think there's another company that might make them as well. You might be able to get them cheaper, but these splicer plugs are amazing, because trying to either solder or crimp to this little bitty wire here it's such a pain. So splicer plugs is my go-to. And just to kind of give you an example, we'll pan over here, we'll take a look at this signal here that is working. So we got a green on that side, green on that side, and that's because, well, there's nothing occupying the blocks except for the passenger cars that don't have resistor wheel sets in them. But if I go up under here, you can see how I use the spicer plugs and I use network wire to wire into that side right there. Now I'm not using these here, so I might be able to run network wire along the back down to the bottom level when I build it if I need to use it. So that's an example there. But to show you the cool thing about how it works, this is a card that does use electricity. Is that not neat? Okay. And then once it clears, it goes back green within just seconds. Just like the real railroad, right? Right. Alright. So panning back over here, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to connect the to the tripod, and I'm going to show you how I do this. Alright, so we'll be right back. Alright, so this is probably going to be one of the weirdest camera angles that I'm going to have to work with, but I want to show you how I do this. So we got our splicer plug here, and the screws that we use, they're not real big, but it's basically it's a number 4 Phillips, and it's 1 inch. Alright, so number 4, pretty small. You have to use a P1 screwdriver to work it. But when you put it in, you can see that the screw kind of hangs out a little bit. It's not too terrible. So what I typically like to do is go ahead and get the screw in there, and it actually snaps in between the prongs. And I will go ahead and put typically what I like to do is I'm doing the top first, so I hope you can see this, but like I said, there's 3 small wires and a resistor. The wires, he's got a green for green, yellow for yellow, or it's kind of orange, and then a red. So I typically like to put the red and the resistor on the same one. So I'm just going to kind of press down and poke the red in there far enough where it's stripped, and I'm going to do the same with the resistor and leave it hanging. I'm going to go ahead, pop my screw in the other one, and sometimes I just have to use my screwdriver to do it till it snaps in. And I'm going to do the same, but this time with green and the yellow. Alright, so that way it looks like this. We got green, yellow, red, common. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and just kind of hold them up here, and I'm going to take the first one and I'm going to go ahead and start screwing. Get the first one screwed in. And then do the same thing with that one there. Alright. Okay, so what I want to do is go ahead and label this. So I'm going to go ahead and mark T for top. And then when I screw the other ones in, I will mark B for bottom. Alright, there you go. Now we'll need to label this one B for bottom. Alright, now I'm going to go grab some network cable and we're going to do the next section. Okay, so the network cable I'm using, this is actually Cat 6, but you can use Cat 5e or Cat 5. If you got some older wire, I probably would not recommend anything under Cat 5. But in this case, it just makes it more simple to do it. And we'll have to do 2 runs of this network wire because one is going to be for the top head and Actually, no, correction. One wire should do all 8 connections. So, I just like to use electrical scissors. I used to work in telco years ago, and it just makes things more simplistic. Now, if you're ever using box cable, you'll notice there's a string in there. It's there for a reason, because if you do try to strip it with either a knife or electrical scissors, you can nick the wire. So what I like to do is I like to bend my cable down. I'll stick my snips in, and that's what we call them, as snips, and just create like a cut so that way I can take my wire or my piece of thread, whatever you want to call it, and pull to create a clean pull or clean gash through the plastic. Alright, and then I'll cut it off. And then from there, I will cut the wires flush so that way I know if I did nick it, it's going to be cut off. Alright, I'm going to pull my wires out, bend them all down, and take my plastic, and I'm going to cut it off too. And then for those that are using Cat 6, sometimes you have this plastic divider. I'm going to take the wires, I'm going to bend it down, same thing, I'm going to cut it off as well. Alright, so now we're going to use all 8 wires. I'm just going to kind of fan it out like a little, and I hope the camera is catching this. I might angle it down a little bit. There we go. And we're just going to take our wires and we're just going to straighten them out. So I'm just pulling them to get the kinks out of them, just running my fingers, squeezing it, because once you untwist it, it's pretty crinkly. So I just grab and pull on them a couple of times and they kind of straighten out. And that's what you're going to want. Like so. Now, I do use a certain color code. Blue goes before orange, and then green goes before brown. So blue, orange, green, brown. Alright? And then I'll use the whites, the white striped colors, before I use the solids. Alright? But first, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and take all of these wires and just strip the ends. Now, if you're not experienced like I am with, and sometimes I'll cut the wire, and it's okay if I do. You can use strippers. I just do it this way because it's faster for me, because like I said, I've been working in telco and IT since 2006, so almost 20 years. And it's just much easier for me to do it this way because that is what I'm used to. And these are actually some duller scissors. There it goes. Alright. Now I've got all 8 wires cut. So what I'm going to look at is we did our wire scheme. So we did the top on the far end, and we're going to do the bottom closest to us. So the first one I want to grab is that white blue, and I'm going to work my way furthest to closest. That way I have less wires in my way. Then I'm going to grab the solid blue. Poke it in. Next color pair is going to be orange, so blue, orange. We're going to go white, orange first, till it grabs, and then regular orange. Next is the green pair. Green, white green, and then solid green. And then the last is going to be the brown pair. Just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of measure for where my wire needs to go, give a little bit of extra length, cut the other end, and then we'll wire it into the node. So I'll go ahead and get that wire measured and cut, and we'll be right back. Alright, so I went ahead, I got the wire ran behind. So since this is going to be signal mast 110 and it's the left head, this one's actually going to go on this side here. So we'll have the top head on the top one. So the way these Signal LCCs work is they do head 1, head 2, and then on the bottom you go to head 3 and then back up to head 4. So we'll do top, bottom, and then the right mast would be top and then bottom. It's like flipped. Alright, you're going to need the smallest flathead screwdriver you can get, and we're going to do the top 4 screws. There's 5 screws, so we're going to loosen up the top 4 for each one. And this is going to be a little tricky because I know I got a lot of wire in the way with these tortoises and the way that I got the frogs routed in between. And now, the way that we did our color scheme over here is not necessarily going to be the same. So the top one's going to be for our common. So in this case, our common is going to be the white blue. So I'm going to go ahead and get the white blue wired in. Sometimes this is easier said than done. Alright. And we're going to go ahead and tighten. If it don't come out, I think I might got a little too much slack on my wire, but sometimes more slack is better than not enough slack. Alright, then the next one's going to be green. Well, the color that we used for green is going to actually be orange. So we're going to use orange as our second color, our second wire. This is just to make sure that we get it wired in correctly. Sometimes it's easier if you use little pliers to do this, which I don't see my red pliers, so I'm going to try it one more time. Okay, I think I got her in there this time. And I'll tell you this, the peeps behind me, they are hard at it today. Okay, then the next color we're going to do is yellow. Well, in this case, yellow is going to be our white orange. So really the only colors we got backwards is the blue, the solid blue, and the solid orange. Alright, get that one in. Get it tied down. And then we will get the blue as the fourth one. That's going to be our red. And we're not using a lunar. Now, you could theoretically... Ooh, that wire does not look like it went in. Nope, it went in. That's interesting. Okay. Theoretically, you could use the lunar for another signal, but in this case, we're not. Okay, and let's see here. That's white green, so we need to go solid brown, because remember we're flipping the two solid colors. this one's wanting to give me problems. And I'm over here pulling on some wires here. So you're probably hearing the tortoises kick on and off. There we go. Alright, putting the white brownie in. And then we will wrap it up with the green. If I can get it in the right spot. There it goes. And because I got a wire signal over here, I'm going to take and I'm going to pull my wire back. So that way it looks nice and neat. And then I will tie it down so that way it doesn't move. It doesn't cause problems. So that's how we wire up a double-headed signal mast to 2 functions on the decoder, or on the Signal LCC, which is a LCC decoder if you want to say. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wrap up part 1 of this signal install. So if you like what you see so far, make sure that you smash that like button. You know, hitting that thumbs up really helps the channel. So do that if you don't mind. And if you're interested in watching me program the signals and show you how to actually do the logic, we'll actually get in more depth about the different rules that signals provide. Make sure that you subscribe and fill in the bell so that way you'll be notified when part 2 comes out, which will be the next video after this one. So in the meantime, I'll go ahead and wire the rest of these up and not waste your time, because I basically showed you at least one of them. And then we will, you know, get all the signals up and going and hopefully get some logic and make these signals actually work. So other than that, y'all be safe out there and happy railroading. Take care.